What's good? Everybody hanging out. RgL with you. We've got a really special, fascinating guest. I told you we were going to have some really, really cool people and interesting stories, and I can't wait to dive in this morning. We pulled up today to Casa Garcia's, so you're going to have to forgive me if we make this like a 5 or a 10 minute chat because the tacos, the tortillas are caught. No, we're going to dive in. We're going to dive in. Today I have Dr. Manuel Zamarripa here with, I mean, a laundry list, an accordion file of education background and a Chicanismo background. I'm super excited to dive in. RgL SEDAN sessions. This is a brand new idea to me, not a brand new concept at all. It's something that I've wanted to do for some time, whether it was writing or taking photographs, but documenting each other's journey. Yeah. As we go through this life here in Austin and Central Texas. What things have you found challenging? What things have you found supportive? Because one of the things, as I noted in my first episode, which this is number 2, folks, thanks for following the journey. I'm excited to get this thing off the ground, is that I love to find out why we're here. Like specifically, like say we would have met up anyway, which we would have because it's been a while since we caught up, and I enjoy doing that with my friends. I'm an only child, grew up in South Texas, so my friends are family. My friends are even closer than family nowadays, and we go way below the surface. We're not just surface level connections and friends. So we would have caught up anyway. Hey, Manuel, I haven't seen you in a couple of years. We have literally have not probably caught up this way in that long. Let's go grab some tacos. Let's go grab some cafecito and catch up. So I like to find out, wait, how do we get here? What's going on? It's one of the things I used to ask of some of my clients. So in that sense, Manuel, what have you been up to? Where have you been? Why have we not caught up? You've been busy. I've seen you online doing a lot of Platica seminars, and we'll dive into that. Tell me, who is Dr. Manuel Zamarripa? Dr. Manuel Zamarripa here. And this is Dan hanging out.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's good to see you, Ricardo. Yeah, of course, it's been a while, and we usually definitely do this. We definitely catch up and check in and see what's happening. And it's about time. It's time. We're kind of ready.
Absolutely.
To talk a little bit, man.
Well, and on that note, I can feel it like we always and you always do. I guess let's honor this. Let's honor that moment in whatever way necessary. I like to take that time and place. So, Cubo, thank you for being here.
Absolutely, man.
So I met you at one of your Platicas, and we'll go into that. So you and your wife are the founder, and tell me your wife.
Yeah, Jessica Zamarripa, and so about 12 years ago now, maybe. Something like that.
Yeah, Facebook Memories is really good about bringing up and really going, whoa, that was that long. That was that long ago. No, yeah, it was a series of platicas for the the name you've added, I think, to it. So it's the Institute of Chicanx Psychology and Mental Health
and Community Wellness
Community Wellness. Yep. So the Institute of Chicanx Psychology and Community Wellness. Absolutely.
Yep.
Where can folks plug in and find out more info about that?
Well, the easiest way is to just go on our website, which is rasapsychology.org.
Okay.
And Ricardo, you were instrumental in putting our first iteration of our website together.
Getting the tech, getting the word out there. So that back to kind of how we connected. I found you were doing at the time, and you still do, social media posts and regular in-person. This was before COVID. Before COVID, where you would host a Platica on what topics? What were the topics?
The topics, I think, were our intention was things that were just really important to the Chicano community, Latinx community here in Austin, and it related to. I think that's why we put the community wellness, was because, it comes from a Chicanic psychology perspective, but I always felt that we didn't want to exclude it it wasn't like necessarily an academic thing. It's really about how do we take the stuff that we're learning and how is it applicable to the community, but gosh, we always say, like, no one's talking about the wisdom in our community as
Right,
well, not
right.
just the struggles, but the wisdom. So it's about like identity, familia, spirituality.
And I think that was one
You
of the
know,
one of the themes that resonated with me, is because I have, and like a lot of folks, the ebb and flow of the journey. One of the things I mentioned in with one of my previous with one of my first guests, Dewey, was that I enjoy finding out what is your why, and
mm,
I'm finding out my why as well. And in one of those flows and iterations of figuring out what is the journey, what is this thing that we're on together. It was a platica, I believe, on that, the Chicana identity, Chicanx identity,
mm,
within family. And then, but also there was this interesting, what I took from it was this interesting individual, sort of growth opportunity, because we're a very, very tight knit community,
yeah,
in every respect. And it's hard sometimes to form your own identity within that by and still honor the
yep,
community in a way. So, and that was one of the things that I took from it, and I showed up without knowing much more, and tell folks for a broad perspective, what is the Platica? What is that? What did you host? What do you host?
yeah. We hear that a lot, right? And
Yeah,
which is fine because that's part of what we do as a people. You know, oh, sat down for a plática with the comadre, you know, the kind of things. But like for us and the work we're doing, I think sometimes we call it like a workshop plática, like
sure.
a one thing. And what we do is we try to like take a mix of things, like you were saying, individual and community, like a both and. So what we do is I think we try to take like I'm a Chicano psychologist, so that's my academic background, right? But again, like not everything about that field or a lot of fields has been good to our people, right?
Sure.
So I try to take
In what sense?
in the sense of like taking like mainstream ideals and ideas about like what's healthy and what's mental health and what's like identity that was
Sort of creating like a broad stroke.
yeah, too broad that
Okay.
like doesn't include our experiences or sometimes of course diminishes our experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? So taking like the work in that field that's good, I would just say good,
Sure.
that's culturally responsive, um and at the same time listening to the things that I just know that we know, like
Right.
growing up, like
Right.
what are the things that affected or impacted our community? Why are we still like wondering like what's our place in this society?
Sure.
Like and you know, and then we love our familias, but then like we hear like how bad our familias are,
Right.
and then like sometimes
That's
we
a
think
rabbit hole.
that,
Right. Right. Oh
and
my God.
so the platicas were about like
A
um,
safe space.
a safe space and like I'm learning some good stuff here that I think our people need to know about, you know, but I don't want to like lecture them,
Sure. Sure.
right? I want to like create a place like, hey, you know, like here's some stuff, like put it in a way that's not dumbing down,
Right.
but that is just more like I always say, like when I hear some of this stuff, I'm like, that's not how our people talk. That's not how we have a platica,
Right.
right?
Right.
So taking some of this information about like what we're learning about like other Chicano psychologists, Latino psychologists studying our community that are seeing the good things within our people,
Sure.
the strengths that we have that we don't realize like, it feels good to have that platica, that talk, but sometimes we don't realize, hey, you know what? Like there's some research that says that actually is beneficial to your mental health, right?
Ringing it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
like, so doing that on all these like various topics, you
So
know?
that reminds me of a whole lot of reasons why I want to do and showcase and highlight folks that are doing work similar to you, but also going through whatever creative or corporate or professional struggle, is kind of breaking through those barriers of what either society or family tells you it should be like or could be, or doing what could be in your own frame of it. I want to back up to your education background. You mentioned that. Thank you guys for staying with me as I launch this creative process and journey, RgL SEDAN sessions, a conversation series that I hope to shine the light on a few of the amazing folks that I'm lucky enough to be connected with, and with Dr. Manuel Zamarripa. Tell me, what was your journey in education? Where I noticed you went to Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Our Lady of the Lake,
Yeah.
and University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Yeah.
So you were Notre Dame in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
What did you earn at each?
So at Notre Dame, I went into psychology.
Okay.
And I did like a second major in theology because, you know, we're people all
Sure.
about spirituality and stuff. And then when I was there, I've always been interested in our community.
Sure. I was going to ask, I was like, a Chicano and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
What years were you there? What?
Well, I was there in the early 90s.
Okay.
And we all stuck together. You know,
were there a lot?
There weren't a lot, but there were
because it's Catholic, it's a Catholic university.
It's a Catholic university.
And we're a Catholic people.
Yep.
I tell folks I'm a recovering Catholic.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So yeah. So there was a community.
There was community. We had the California Latinos, the El Paso, and then the San Antonio, South Texas.
Sure.
You know, Mexicanos and stuff. And so we all found each other. We stuck together, of course. You know, small group, and it was definitely culture shock.
Sure.
I mean, you know, growing up in San Antonio and stuff. And I knew
so you grew up in San Antonio?
Yep.
Okay.
Grew up in San Antonio. So, I mean, I knew it was going to be different, of
San Antonio to Notre Dame.
Yep.
Wow. From high school?
Yep, straight from high school. It was pretty wild.
Okay.
It was pretty wild.
What were a couple, if you can remember, what were a couple of the biggest aha moments? Like, what was...
Well, I think one was, even though I knew it was going to be like a culture shock, just realizing like how different it was going to be.
Sure.
You know, like there were no breakfast tacos.
Sure.
There were no papas con huevos, tacos.
No.
You know, and
how long were you there?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay. Ooh, that's a long 4 years to not have tacos.
And the cold, of course,
sure.
which I knew, and the snow and all that. And I remember once we went through our first winter, once it started getting springtime, people were out there like with t-shirts and shorts, and I was like, oh, it's springtime, right? But that springtime where people were going out in shorts and t-shirts, it was like 50 degrees right. With the sun out.
I went in my college years, I went and visited a friend in Iowa, and it was one of my first times in being that sort of winter. Kind of same thing, like shorts, t-shirts, going, what the heck is going on? It was but also the culture. We went to eat at a Mexican food restaurant called Carlos O'Kelly's. Carlos O'Kelly. So yeah, I'm sure there was a few things like that.
I forgot about Carlos O'Kelly.
Oh my God, was that a thing? Was that a chain or something? Oh my God.
I remember that. Oh my God, that's why I forgot about that.
Oh no. Yeah, they were like, yeah, let's go. I almost felt like I was being shown off. They weren't, like, it was a great time.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, we got a live one. Like, let's make it right. Carlos O'Kelly's is where we went. All right, so you did your 4 years undergrad at Notre Dame. And then from there, did you come back to San Antonio?
Then I went to San Antonio to Our Lady of the Lake University. And so by that time, I was already learning the history. In Notre Dame, I had come across a book called Chicano Psychology, which of course I had never heard of.
Okay.
And I came.
This was at Notre Dame.
This was at Notre Dame.
Got it.
And
so you went. What was the pursuit at Notre Dame? What did you? Because I was going to ask, how did Chicano Psychology come to you, or did you always know mental health was something that you wanted to?
Well,
because that's another thing. You're the dean of mental health at Austin Community College,
right?
Correct. Yeah, we'll dive into that as well, and then also licensed professional counselor.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So how did all this come together?
Yeah. Well, I knew psychology was interesting.
Sure.
I knew I was going to do that going in, actually.
Yeah.
But, you know, also like a student of the Chicano movement, civil rights movement,
sure,
you know, educational equity, all that. So I was like, I almost wanted to go into history because of that. But I was like, no, psychology is what I want to do. I also thought, you know, like I love the university environment, and I started as a professor, right? That was my initial goal too, to be a professor of psychology. But the point is that I didn't see how these two worlds could combine. Like I had this activist community history thing, and then I had this psychology, like that was going to be my profession.
Sure.
So they kind of just were separate until I saw that book.
Okay.
I was like a junior or senior, and I came across by accident this book called Chicano Psychology.
Okay.
And that was early mid-90s, and the book was published in the late 70s. So not only had I not heard about it, I'm like, well, if something's published in the late 70s, that means people were doing this even before.
Sure, absolutely, because it's being documented then. Yeah, absolutely.
So it fit right into...
nothing like that had ever occurred. Wow, okay.
Nothing. And so it fit right into like the same thing, like with our historical accomplishments, with, you know, like everything about our people were like,
Sure.
again, part of our history that we didn't know about. And in this case, it was our history and psychology. I was
Yeah.
like, so we were here. And that's when I could see those two worlds could merge. Like
Okay.
like we were part of that, like movement for equality. And there were people in psychology like me that had looked at our people not from like a Eurocentric lens.
Sure.
So once I saw that book, then I was like, okay, that was the seed to where I am now. Like everything grew from that.
But that was pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
That
was
like
really
this
cool.
can happen.
This can happen.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That fueled, well, I'm sure then, so you come back to
Come
Our
back
Lady
to
of the
Lady
Lake.
Lake.
Okay. Was there any gap year or time off or anything? Or did
No,
you just straight through? Okay.
Straight through.
Okay.
I was worried that if I didn't go straight through, I was going to like,
Yeah. That happened to me. I know, exactly. But it's hard. It's hard to work and go to school and go. Were there any scholarships? Were there anything, or was this like you put your way? How was that for you?
Notre Dame had a little bit of help, but I worked all the way through.
Sure.
You know, the dining hall and other things.
Okay.
Our Lady of the Lake, also not really scholarships. Our Lady of the Lake, worked all the way through. Did a lot of work at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And also did like the internships and also did other things, you know, that you do. But really good education there.
Really?
In the field.
Good.
Like really, really, really good stuff. Loved it.
And that's where you got your master's.
That's where I got my master's.
Okay.
And funny because like, man, when I went to Notre Dame, a great Notre Dame school, man, but being up in the Midwest, away from like our Chicano Mexicano community, I was like, man, forget the Midwest. Like, I'm done. I'm going home.
I've wondered, like, because I've seen the accomplishments for a while, and well, how did Chicano get up there? Like, and Chicano studies at that, you know. But obviously, and so but you went back to.
I know that I went back. Well, I did the like responsible thing. I started looking at like all the best grad school. Not the for grad schools that were the best, like for me, my thing. And again, very informed choice. I looked at University of Wisconsin-Madison at the psychology, or the counseling psychology doctoral program. And what I saw was like, which you hardly ever see. It's a research one, you know, university, like blah blah, higher tier, all that stuff. And the program at the time was like the number 3 program in the nation and stuff. And what I saw was like over half of the tenured faculty or tenure track faculty, like the ones they're invested in, were faculty of color. And there were 2 Chicano faculty up there already.
In Wisconsin.
Wow. In this research one. And so then I checked a little bit more, and that program was doing something different. Like they were doing something different, how they recruited students and how they recruited faculty. So it's like, damn, I have to go back to the Midwest. I swore it off. I was so like, I wanted to stay home.
Was it an obvious choice? Like, okay, I got to do it, or were you looking for? No, this has to exist somewhere else. This has to be like, this can't be the only. Or what? I mean,
well, no, I looked, and that was it. Was like.
And what years was this? Was that because that's fairly progressive? I would say, yeah.
Yeah, this was like late 90s.
Okay.
Late 90s. Yep.
And I hear I have a good friend from Wisconsin. Is the winters, man. I haven't experienced those. But.
Well, yeah, and the winters were even worse than Notre Dame, you know, because it's even more north. It's more north. So,
but they're still out there grilling. I don't know anything about it. I'm born and raised in Texas. That's all.
They are.
Dr. Manuel Zamarripa hanging out RgL SEDAN sessions, talking about kind of how we've got here, the education journey. Now, you just I saw online, it was an accolade or award, alumni of the year, or one of the alumni or esteemed. Tell me about that from University of Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that was really out of the blue. It was definitely
for this past year, correct? Or
they so what they did is they contacted me and they said that they wanted to recognize me as an outstanding alumni of the School of Education, which is where I got, you know, my doctorate in Wisconsin. So so what they're doing is they instituted this, like a lot of universities, where instead of just doing like a lifetime achievement, they just do people that are currently
Sure,
in their
sure.
fields and, and impacting their fields and
Absolutely.
stuff. And so I was really happy I was able to go back. They did this whole thing,
Nice.
and so I was one of 3 alumni that were honored.
What is it like? What is that like to go back to? Um, because that's one part of my journey that I don't want to say that I regret, but I don't have the thick higher education experience. One of my corporate roles, I worked for a bank in downtown Austin, and we were invited to, and I was the site lead, one of the site leads for the DEI initiative, which I
Mhm.
know that nowadays is becoming uh, a, a bad word, but that's another topic. And it was the business resource employee resource group within this corporate organization, and I was one of the city site leads. And one of the things that we got asked to do was go speak at UT to the Macomb School, the
Yeah,
graduate, the Latino Hispanic Student Association.
nice.
And so that was super cool and humbling and nerve wracking because of my journey.
Yeah,
But I was able to explain it in a sense like, hey, my journey took this long. Your journey could take this long, a lot shorter. Use the tools, use the resources. So, what was that like for you to go back in that
yeah,
setting and with that honor?
yeah.
Because again, like you said, it's not like a lifetime achievement award where they're putting a punctuation
Right.
or a period on what you've done. No, they're saying, hey, you're doing good stuff. You're doing amazing work now, and we'll dive into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was very humbling, very excited. I was like, it's one of those few things in life that truly surprise you. And you're
Sure.
like, what?
Sure.
Like that naturally bring a smile.
Good.
Like you're like, whoa, how did that happen? Like
Do you think that
you
do you
know,
think that too is a product of, I don't want to say our community, but our I know, as a Chicano, sometimes you're kind of like that rascuache nature. They're like, well,
Mhm.
we're gonna have to scrap. We're gonna have to put it together. Ain't nobody gonna see. Ain't nobody
Yeah,
gonna do. No, but you got to do it. Do
right,
good work because
right.
that's what Grandpa told you. That's
Yeah,
what your dad told you.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what your
yeah,
mom
yeah,
said.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
good work.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then that also dovetails into why you do what you do. I
Right.
imagine, like, hey, no, own your space.
Yep, yep.
This is you.
Yeah. And I was thinking a little bit kind of along those lines where when this happened, it was like it was especially special, I think, because this is also a fine, like very awesome fine goal. When someone's starting out with something, it's like sometimes you start out and you're like, I really like my goal is to be like the premier institute or whatever because of all these great reasons, and that's wonderful. We didn't start out that way because we have this. For me, like my history was like seeing all these ways we weren't talked about or excluded, particularly our people, like the community. So we started and continued like, let's just fill the gaps. Like these are the gaps we see in this
Sure,
Platicas and
sure.
in this research and in this field. No one's speaking about these things in this way. Let's just do this.
Right.
Let's just do this. So my point is that like, we didn't, and it would have been a fine goal, but the goal was never to get this type of recognition.
Sure. No,
The goal was
absolutely.
just like to like
Absolutely.
fill in the gaps and stick to it. And so it's like, wow, like
That's one of the things that I've noticed and so I was
wow.
lucky enough many years ago, and it dovetails into when and how we met. Because when I start going to anything, I have the gift and the curse of opening my mouth and asking questions and having ideas. And then people go, oh, well, that's great. Let's follow up. Do you want to be in charge of that? Not that you or anybody, but it does. I have a good bunch of good friends that are like, yeah, we ended up having an idea and now I'm the chair of the idea and whatever. But no, great, champion it forward. But I was lucky enough to do some creative work and some agency development type stuff in the way that Austinites do, because in this city, you do everything. You've got to do
Yeah.
everything to push your idea forward. Um, and one of the things that I remember in that first Platica was that you were in the early stages of the institute.
Mhm.
And I think because when did you found that? When did you and Jessica create, and how did that come about?
Yeah, I think so we're in 2024, so I think it was probably 2012.
Sure.
Sometime in
Wow.
2012 where we founded the institute. And so yeah, we did it together.
And why Chicano institute? Why Chicano history? Why? Because that's, I'm sure you get asked
Yeah.
quite a bit, and that's something that was a part of my journey as well. Is that I, within the last decade or so, thanks to a lot of your and Jessica's work, is come to own that identity, that
Yeah.
Chicano identity of where, my family's 3-4 generations Texan,
Yep.
Tejano, Chicano de Texas, Texaslan, any
Yeah.
way that you want to go with it.
Yeah.
But tell me how and why that, and not Latin American studies or Mexican American studies.
Sure.
I think
No, that's an important question, and and I honor really genuinely all of our different paths.
Sure.
Because we don't all have to have the same path or identify in the same way. No, so like that being said, right? We've always been, I think one of our first pláticas before the institute was at the old Resistencia books. Two
yes,
locations
shout out
prior.
to Resistencia
Yeah,
Books.
like when it was
They're still doing their thing, right? Correct.
They're still doing their thing, and we're going to be there this summer for some programming. Maybe we'll talk about it, but it was just a plática on Chicano identity, Chicanx identity, because that's kind of what fueled the beginnings. And the reason
and
why
it was there where I met you. I think in one of those before it formalized.
Yeah,
yep,
I think
absolutely.
So, it's not about. There's two ways of being exclusionary, right? And so sometimes when people say, "Well, you're just focused on Chicano, so we need to unify as Latinos, Latinx people," you're being exclusionary, and it's not that. Like, we definitely one collective raza, on this continent. What we've evolved, it was always there, the seed, but now we have more of the language to it, is that all of what is now called Latin America, we are all, what connects us is that we all have roots as being part of being indigenous to this continent.
Sure.
We can talk about all the mixes and stuff, but there's definitely an indigenous root.
Right.
And that's what unifies us. It also unifies us to what we call our Native American siblings in the United States.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about that as much, but
that does get left out a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's our unifying piece. So it's not about that. But if we just focus on like the Latinx, then that actually excludes the history of our own people, because it's a both and. We do have our own history, just like I honor the Boricua, the Puerto Rican history, the Central American histories, the different various, like I honor that, and I would be happy if they were like unapologetically, Venezuelan American.
Right.
Like, yes, go for it. That doesn't mean we don't, sit down around the table.
Because I exist does not mean that you don't exist.
Right.
That's that's one of the things that I've loved taking from creating and establishing, owning our identity. And I think a lot of people think that way.
Yeah.
Feel that way. Oh no, because you exist, that means now we're less than. No, we're woven together that way. Absolutely. So the Institute, how did that come about?
So the Institute was really, I guess, like from the ground up, like, talking about our identity, this kind of conversation, and me kind of also being from the psychology perspective, and then at this point learning more and more about the history of Chicano psychology after I found that book. So I'm like, you know what? There have been a lot of Chicanic psychologists that have actually done work about identity development with their own people. So like that like excites my academic brain, right? And I'm like, but I can see how this translates to all of our community, and I can see how we can have this conversation not in the way it's written here, but in the way that our people talk.
So you not only enjoy soaking it up, I mean, because there's also different types of learners.
Yeah.
You are also a doer in that you want to put what you've learned into a practical use, I could see, and being able to be that kaleidoscope, that collaborative interpretive, because like you were saying, not cherry picking, but picking the good from all of these books, from all of these people, from all of these philosophies, and molding it into, because again, that's Chicanismo, that's the Rascuacha nature, that's what we do, is put in. That's what I love about the identity of it.
Yeah.
And so the way I see and remember was a wanting to create the awareness is one of the reasons why, and thank you very much for allowing me to step in, because I come from a little bit of a business background and a banking background, but I'm also that artist as well. Like
Yeah.
I get some corporate and things satiated, but I also know I need to create. I know I want to collaborate, and I love when there are ideas out there. Like, how can we mold that Play-Doh into something that's bigger and better for the whole? So thank you for allowing me to step in and all, because that was the point as well of the Platicas, was like,
Yep.
let's listen. Where are you coming from? And that's in other spaces where my Friday morning coffee groups are collaborative in that sense. You take it back into another language. It's the Napoleon Hill Mastermind group concept. It's all therapy.
Yeah.
In a sense, is what I gather. And
Yep.
the way I've explained some of my coffee group, or my coffee group to folks, is therapy for entrepreneurs.
I love it. Yeah.
In a sense, and that kind of is where I got off track a bit ago. Was one thing I noticed is a lot of entrepreneurs, the most successful, are solving a problem or solving a niche, and I see kind of where you're at is filling that gap or filling that niche.
Yep.
For an identity that I don't want to say we've struggled to carve out, because I don't know enough of the Chicano movement of the day, of the origins of it. You said you were aware of that. Were you involved in a lot of that in the San Antonio and Austin area?
In terms of the history,
Sure.
I was always definitely like a student of the Chicano movement from the 70s, and really like it formed a lot of what we're doing now.
Sure.
For sure. And I think that filling the gap was also part of that movement, where it's like, where are we in the conversation? Not just in the art, right, in politics and business, like where are we? Where's our voice?
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of what we do, is like, when we're talking about our identity, what do we have to say about it? Where's our voice in this larger conversation?
And you still host regular Platica. I know COVID it took a different form. You went online, used that platform expertly, and tell me, what are you doing now with the Institute?
So COVID, right before COVID, we had started doing a couple of webinars. I don't know if people call them webinars anymore.
Sure.
Online.
Right.
But then COVID, of course, we went
Zooms,
completely
Teams,
online. And so we've still kind of done mostly online format since then, because we reached a lot of other people that way. A lot of other people that, again, happily surprised, were kind of interested in what we were doing.
And you have a lot of educators as well.
We have a lot of
that I noticed, because I've been a part of several of your over the years. You've hosted planning sessions.
Yep.
On the growth and the journey of it, and because of some of the banking and business background, I've been lucky enough to be a part of it. To discuss some of the business strategy of it. But one thing I do remember enjoying was that there were educators that I noticed from all across the country, that were tuning in to create and spread.
Absolutely.
The awareness.
What we love is that, like, we have people from all backgrounds, like educational backgrounds, ages, experiences. And anytime somebody joins a Platica or a training, like, what we like to say, and we try to honor it, is that you are now like an equal voice in the Institute. So you are, like, quote unquote, a member.
It's community, right?
Yeah, you're part of the Círculo. So from this point on, any feedback, comments, questions that you want, please.
And that too takes back to what it reminds me of is that tribal, that indigenous sort of, that communal, like, hey, we're all doing this together.
We're all doing this together. Yeah. We're a big circle, and that's where in the early days, it was great. You were part of what we tried to start with one of our early iterations, or early as we started to shift of a planning circle. So it was you and several others that had continued to show up, or that we just saw, like, we got to put together this group, and we did that for about a year and a half, I think, maybe, and then COVID hit soon after,
and that just froze everybody.
And it froze. But right now, this year, 2024, we're mostly shifting to see what we're going to evolve into next.
Okay.
So we're not doing too many like new programming. We're mostly kind of collecting. We're planning.
And for more info, because you post old or past sessions, right?
Yes.
Correct, or past Platicas, you post info there. Let's remind folks again, where can they find the Institute, find you, get connected?
Yeah, the best thing is to go to our website, which is rasapsychology.org. You can also find us on Instagram.
Good. You're on the socials.
Yeah, we're
Good.
definitely on Instagram and Facebook. Just look up Chicano Psychology on Facebook.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Manuel Zamarripa hanging out, RgLerma, RgL SEDAN sessions, conversation series that I've been excited to mold as well. And one thing that I'm learning and excited to showcase is the common threads of the journey of overcoming the obstacle of just sort of making it happen. That sort of um, uh, um, dig in nature that I think a lot of us encompass. What is one of the biggest or a few of the biggest, I don't want to say misconceptions or things, what are the things as people peel the curtain back and they find out about Dr. Zamarripa? What are some of the things that surprise folks, or that you want people to know that they don't always figure out right away?
that's a good question, man. That is a good
I have to
question. Are
put
you
you on
sure
the
you're
spot.
not a
Yeah.
psychologist?
No, hey, no. And I told you, and that's another reason why I resonate with Manuel and I don't think I've told you directly, and this also is a theme, is a lot of you are my friends that I'm having in the Sedan, but you're mentors. I see you as an advisor. I see you as a counselor. You're obviously a counselor, but in so many other ways. Because, like I told my first guest, Dewey, who's a person of color, you're a person of color, I'm a person of color. That's a journey.
Yeah.
That in and of itself, in whatever swath,
Absolutely.
from wherever you come from,
Yep.
that's a journey because there's so many things that go on in just living that daily life. But no, all that to your comment, I remember one time when I had first started to scratch off years and years and years ago the need for therapy, and then I sought out and I went and I sat on the company I worked for at the time. They do, and a lot do still. So plug into your company's what is it, EAPs. You can get 6 or 8 sessions free to figure out. Most corporate channels will do that to figure out. So I was sitting with somebody, and the woman said, "Well, Ricardo, you're pretty sharp. You sure you shouldn't be sitting in this chair?" And I was like, "Well, I came for help. I didn't. What do you?" But that's also one of the reasons. But this was a woman who, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it wasn't my culture. It wasn't the journey that I was on or about to discuss. So it just didn't resonate. So I think that's why I'm glad they give you that many sessions to figure out. And I didn't come to you through one of those.
Right.
But that's why I was drawn to. And I think that's also what I found in the community that you have, is folks come to you. I remember the analogy as if they've just taken a drink of water and they've been thirsty for so long, because that's the info that I feel, and the energy that I feel that you and Jessica are giving to folks is that quenching that thirst that we didn't know we had. Right. Because it's new. I know embracing and owning that identity years ago was newer to me. I'll admit that, obviously.
Yeah.
But then once you dive in, you're there. Folks like you, the Institute is there to go, come. Let me show you that we are in this world. So I thank you all for that. But no, yeah. What is that thing that? No, Dr. Zamarripa is this. No, I want you to know that because yeah, we didn't even get into, and we're going. One thing I'm noticing as well is I'm going to need part 2s, 3s, and 4s with almost all my guests. Is the dean of mental health at ACC. I think, do people forget about your true academic, sort of not 9 to 5, but
right. Well, I
know you as the Institute.
Right.
I know you and Jessica as the Institute.
Yeah, I think I'm one of several deans of mental health at ACC, and that's kind of like we try to support the students, and I love that it's also community college, because my background's university, and that's great, like in terms of education and stuff, but that was another choice to try to like still be in higher ed, but community, right. But I think that's that I put a lot of good energy into that and stay focused. But the stuff we do at the institute, I think, is that allows me to speak directly to the community outside of like an organized structure, and it's a project of passion, right? And I think maybe something that might be like maybe not completely unusual, probably not unusual, but maybe typical is like, I'm typically out there talking about the institute, postings, but Not really, I'm really an introvert,
Sure.
I'm really like,
Yeah.
I do all this stuff because I think it needs to be done, like you were saying earlier.
Sure.
And I really like, a lot of what I do kind of behind the scenes or as the heart of the institute too, also happens, because of Jessica, right? Like supporting her kind of in that red road, because she's like an abuela, like I guess in common terms, like a Mexica priestess.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
kind of earned that over the last 10 years, in that circle. And so my role, I try as best as I can is to support her, like in that
Yeah.
indigenous medicine, in that in our people's medicine and ways and spirituality. Um, and so that supporting her, she's like super powerful. It's like a it allows me to kind of like tap into my own medicine.
Sure.
And I tell you, man, see, like even like we come on and like we talk and we believe, like come off like very enlightened, and we believe like things should be different, amongst like, even like in dualidades and
Hmm.
partnerships and
Right.
stuff. But in this journey, I've seen like some of those hardcore patriarchal stuff from even me like come through. I'm like,
Sure.
I want to have some patriarchal stuff to
Yeah.
work through,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
that's been hard. And
I see that
and I
in some
think,
of my anger and some
yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think people might be surprised with this. I think not on purpose, but it seems to involve this like public face of me. Like
Sure.
people are like, I wouldn't see you that way. I'm like, well, it affects all of us, and it's hard to like
Right.
put that
Right.
mirror and like,
Because I
whew,
mean,
man,
there are so many ways to slice it, but it is a theater,
yeah,
not in a fake sense,
right,
not in a false sense. But there's an on and an off.
yeah,
I can resonate with that as well. That introverted, extroverted sense. You need to recharge.
yeah,
That's one of the things that I too resonated with both you and Jessica is that you honor at the beginning and end of each of the platicas, meetings, planning sessions, whatever it is. There's the space to arrive
mm-hmm,
physically and mentally,
yeah,
and then be, and then we do, and then at the end we're able to package it and release,
yeah,
which I love.
yeah.
And we need to do soon because the tacos are waiting at Casa Garcia's. We'll package this one with another one that maybe you weren't ready for is if not this, what you're doing now,
Mm-hmm.
what would you be doing? What do you think? What sort of pivotal was it? Was Notre Dame? Was Our Lady of the Lake? Which one of those? Because there's several pivotal moments, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if not the institute
Yeah.
and ACC and other what?
If not the institute, if not the work that we're doing now, um, what's funny is that sometimes I think and have no idea. Probably not, because I didn't follow this at all. But like years back, I have no idea if it would be good at it. But I always had this spark inclination of being a music producer.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I would have never known that. Have you dabbled? Do you do any?
I never really dabbled into actual producing. So this is
Well, do
really
you come from a music? Do I think I remember that? Do you come from a musician family? Were there
well.
any?
My dad was in a trio, which
Okay.
for those that like we know mariachis, but
Sure.
a trio is actually just
Yeah.
three. You have the two guitars and the guitarón, which is the big bass one. That's what he played.
Oh,
The big
wow.
bass. And so
Wow.
so I always had this
Music
connection to that
producer.
kind of like
Okay.
music in general, and it really is like there's no like if you look objectively, like I haven't dabbled in producing. It's just a sense. It's just a feeling. It's something that was an interest, and if I had if I could have gone off a path in a different way and started pursuing that path, I think that's
Sure.
probably
Well, and I think that informs a lot of what
what.
you are doing now as well. In that, because I feel the same, and I would absolutely love to try producing, whether it's TV, film, producing an album, music, something, but from that collage sense,
Mhm.
that those bringing the elements together, and that also leads to one of the big inspirations for doing an idea like this, not a direct, but there was, I remember back in the VH1 days of,
Yeah, VH1.
I forget, Behind the Music. They were doing
Yes,
one of
behind the music. Mhm.
they were talking about David Geffen. David Geffen,
Yes.
who was a big producer. And so he was getting his Hall of Fame award, and he was saying, and I'm not absolving myself of talent because I have a few talents. He'd say, look, I'm not a talented man when he was getting his award. And you look it up. He goes, my talent is identifying talent in others. Mm-hmm. And I've always had that sense too, and that fuels my yearning. I was going to say need and yearning, which came out nerd. Which
I love that.
to help, going, hey, you've got great ideas. I might have some great ideas. Let's collab and do that. That's fascinating because like one thing I noted with my conversation with Dewey Brooks a while ago was the game doesn't change. The elements do. Like the producing of a thing is still going to be producing of a thing, whether it's a Platica, whether it's the workshop, whether it's an album, whether it's a photograph. There's still that beginning, the doing, and the end. Yeah, and then the post-production, pre-production, all of that. And I think that's what people forget is the elements. Cooking. Yeah, people. So many analogies about that. Cooking. Yeah, we're going to need probably a couple more episodes of this. But Dr. Manuel Zamarripa, thank you very, very much for hanging out and helping me launch RgL SEDAN Sessions Conversation Series that I am super, super excited to mold and keep crafting. And I want to thank you for being one of the big motivators, inspiring members in my circle to highlight not only amazing individuals, but one of my goals is to highlight culture and highlight the path that we've gotten to here and where are we going. So thank you very, very much for coming and hanging out in the sedan. We're going to go into Casa Garcia's and eat.
Absolutely. Great, man. Good hanging with you. Thank you.
You dig?